Thank you for joining us today. Today, we're going to talk about how you might be able to use some AI in your business, specifically ChatGPT, which is actually hard for me to spit out. So if I say it wrong, you'll have to give me a little lenience throughout this. If you have any questions, you can ask via the chat, or you can raise your hand. If you want to ask to get interactively, just let us know that and we can unmute you. So what are we going to accomplish today? So want to cover what is ChatGPT and how it works, what are some of the limitations, how you might be able to use it in your business, and hopefully we'll have a little fun along the way, okay? So I think most people know AI is artificial intelligence, and ChatGPT is just one form of AI. There's machine learning, there's robotics, there's ChatGPT falls in the language processing piece of it. We at IT Radix, we've actually been using AI for years. If you think about what we do with an antivirus, it's looking for particular types of files and particular types of behavior. And the AI is what alerts us and tells us that, hey, bad things are going on. But today we're going to focus in on ChatGPT. Doug here, he loves his acronyms. So there you go. That's what it is. Chat Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And what that means is it takes input that's been fed to it over time, and it learns from that, and then it generates new content. So it is not the same thing as a search engine. A search engine, you type in what you're searching for and it goes out and it finds all the hits. It's essentially been indexed from the internet. In the case of ChatGPT, it's going to take all the information that's been fed to it and then generate a response to whatever question you ask of it. It is the fastest growing app of all times. The adoption rate for ChatGPT surpassed the TikTok adoption rate. I think TikTok was, I don't remember the number, but if you were to compare TikTok where it was in 9 months' time, ChatGPT got there in 2. So it just has exploded in terms of how it's being adopted. And then what they did is not only did they feed all the information in, they used human feedback loops to go in and make it even smarter, make it more like a human, and have more of an actual human conversation. Okay. However, there are some limitations. It's relatively young. It was officially launched back in the fall. It only knows up to, I think it was September of 2021. So anything that's happened, current events from that time forward, it's not there. It does not have context about you. So it is not fully replacing the human element. People are thinking, oh, it could be my marketing consultant or my developer or my doctor. It does not have any context about your specific business, your specific personal situation, or anything like that. It is basically just generating answers based on what's been fed to it up until the 2021 timeframe. One of the things that's concerning about it is sometimes the information it puts back is not necessarily accurate, or it has instructions that might be harmful or contain inherent biases. So when you're using this tool, you need to keep all of that stuff in place, so that in mind, so that you take what you get, and you're going to want to test and verify. And it does not actually provide you with sources as to where it got the information that it's feeding back to you. So unlike when you used to write a term paper at school and you had to document your sources, ChatGPT does not do that. Things that people are using it for in their business. We write things called PowerShell scripts. So it can actually write PowerShell. It can write other types of code. It can write articles, more back onto the language side of things. It can do marketing copy, emails, essays, things like that. What I find it really good for is generating ideas or templates. You can actually have it generate, for example, a multiple choice question or an outline, or do some market research and then give you a summary. So these are all different ways that you could potentially use this in your business. Many businesses are starting to use it for things like employee training, or explaining things that are fairly complex in a simple layman's terms, or at the level of a fifth grader if you ask it to do that. So here's some tips. The more specific, when you're using ChatGPT, the more specific you are, the better the results you're going to get. So there is a button in there that's called a regenerate response, or you could just hit enter and type in some more information, hit enter, and ask it, to do more, to make it shorter, make it longer, make it easier or more difficult, use bigger words. You can ask it to modify for a particular type of tone. So if you wanted to tone it down, or like we did one yesterday, and we said make it a little more spicy, and it was kind of humorous, some of the results that we got back. So a few more tips. Generally what I like to say is that I like to use it as being a template that can be customized. It is, so for example, if you wanted to do a job description, or maybe a standard letter that's used in your business, you could use it to generate the template. What I would discourage you from doing is typing in anything that's proprietary. So client names, personal information, anything like that, even your own company name, or certainly any kind of company information that is confidential. You do not want to be typing it into ChatGPT, because even though the output of what's created is you have the rights to use that, they are using what you type in there to help better train ChatGPT, so they can see it and they will have it. So in my case, I'm always want to emphasize security over some of that stuff. So make sure you're being careful about how you use it. And you might want to actually put some guardrails up in terms of how it can be used within your organization, so that not just you, but all the folks in your company understand you should not put a client's name in there. You should not put a person's full name, or a client's company name, or any kind of confidential client information. When I get into chat, what I would suggest you into the ChatGPT interface, they have this concept of, you create a chat. I would encourage you to make a new chat for each subject that you're working on, so that if you do use it more and more, it'll be easier to reference and find them and get back to them. And then the other thing I would again mention is, it's not always right. Don't assume that what it gives you is facts. So you should go back and double check, depending on how you're using the information, to make sure that if it's stating things that look factual, you're going to want to double check. Okay. If it's marketing copy and it doesn't have statistics, for example, probably fine. What I really like it for is it helps you get started. It gets you over that blank paper syndrome, which is kind of what we're trying to indicate there at the bottom. So with that, I'm going to minimize the slideshow, and I'm going to jump into ChatGPT. So when you log in, so there's two types of accounts. There's a free and a paid. You do have limitations on the free. The paid, I believe it's about $20 a month now, and you get more responses or faster response if you're on the paid. You'll notice I mentioned, you might want to keep track of them. I called them all testing here because we were just doing some little tests with what can ChatGPT do. But if you want to start a new chat, you could type here, and it will type in bear with me for 1 second. I just realized, since I had to switch computers at the last minute, all of my examples are in here. So I got to get my examples. You can type in a query, and then it will give a default title. If you don't like the title, you can just come over here, and you notice when you click on one of these, you can just hit the little pencil button and it'll let you rename it. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to do is just sort of show you the difference between indexing and the search, how it's actually generating a result. So if you said, let's say you wanted to create a healthy dessert of, Father's Day is coming up, and you wanted to, create a healthy dessert for Father's Day. If you went to Google and you typed in healthy recipe, dessert for Father's Day, it's going to just give you a bunch of websites with healthy desserts. In this case, they actually give you the recipe. And now if you were, you wanted to say, let's say it had gluten in it, you could say, make it gluten-free. You could say changes like that. The other thing, so this is a little different than a search engine. A search engine, you would have to click into each website and look at the recipe. In this case, they specifically give you a recipe. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is to sort of show you what it does if you ask for something that is after 2021. I think a lot of you know that maybe Tina Turner recently passed away. And so cause of Tina Turner's death, if you type that in here, it will just let you know that, hey, my knowledge cutoff is September 2021. And as of September 2021, Tina Turner was still with us. So keep that in mind if you're trying to use this as to write content or develop answers based on something that's happened after 2021. Now, back to this, renaming. You notice here, I just stacked up multiple questions inside the same chat. So the Healthy Berry Yogurt chat also has the answer to the cause of Tina Turner's death. If I was following my own best practice, I would have clicked on new chat and typed down here, cause of Tina Turner's death. So some of the other things you could do is I'm going to just do it for ourselves. Let's have it write a blog post as to why people should use IT Radix as their managed services provider. And it's amazing to me, look how quickly it writes this out. And then once it does that, let's say I want to make it a little more interesting or humorous. I could put, let's make it, rewrite it, but have it, compare us to superheroes, Marvel superheroes. And it will go out and it will write, pretty darn quick, a blog post about, IT Radix and how we're like a superhero. So then the other thing you can do with it is maybe you want to just say, hey, convert this to a poem. And you just say, convert it to a poem, and boom, it's putting a poem out there. So it's pretty amazing how quickly it can do things and the results that you get. Now it's pretty formal, and it is polite. So you may find that the language doesn't necessarily suit you. So one of my colleagues that I know is a Texas Hold'em. So to give you the tips, but then what it can also do is go out and do some research on common traits among professional players. And it'll go out and give you the answers to things like that. So almost any question that you could think of, you could pop it in here and see what kind of a result you get. If I were to do another new chat, let's just do a different one. Let's say I wanted to write a job description for a mid-level accountant at a CPA firm. Boom, it creates a job description just like that. Now, again, this is a template. You might want to go in and put, some more specifics around, I don't know a whole lot about accounting. So I don't know what a particular thing is that you would want to do specifically around accounting, but maybe you wanted them to have a specific skill set. So one of the examples that one of my clients used it for, they were an engineering firm and they wanted a job description of a middle-level person, and they wanted them to have SolidWorks experience, which is a piece of software that they use in the design world. It just as quick as you saw what I did here, it spit out that job description. They did modify it. Again, it's the template, it's the starting point, it's getting you over the blank paper scenario, but that's what this is about. If you do things that are So this is one that I decided to test it. After I developed the presentation, I was like, okay, let's do a social media post. And so it will actually write a social media post with, you can see all the cute little characters and all the hashtags that you need in order to put that up in a social media environment. Now that's pretty long. So if I just say, make it shorter, it will take that content that it did right there and shorten it up for you. So, nice little short little post that you could use. Depending on how you want to use this, you could put a lot of different things in here. It can write PowerShell code. It could help you write Excel formulas. I've seen folks use it for Excel formulas. There are a lot of things that people could use it for. Again, the idea here is that it's getting you over the blank paper syndrome so that you don't have to necessarily start from scratch. In terms of questions, I can see we've got a bunch of questions here, so I'm going to start answering a few of those. So does ChatGPT remember an interaction that you had a couple of weeks ago? And the answer is yes, because you can see that they're over here. I think if you have the paid version, it keeps them longer. If you have a free version, it only keeps them for 30 days, I believe. But you could always come back to this, healthy berry yogurt and say, hey, make it low fat or no fat, make the recipe no fat. I had those two things in there. So, and it will then tweak what you had and so you don't have to start from scratch. The other thing is why, somebody asked, why wouldn't you just write a job description? That's easy for some people to do, but others really do struggle with where to start. So it's very good at giving you, giving you a starting point, which then you can refine and hone to your business. So for example, I said, develop an outline for a presentation on ChatGPT. So if I do this, it will give me this nice little outline, which then I could use to go back and, sort of bounce it across against what I did. I could have started with this and created my presentation. In this case, I actually created my presentation, and now I'm comparing it against this to say, hey, did I miss anything? So there's a lot of different ways you could approach this. How do you know it's not plagiarizing? That is a good question. It is, because it is generative, it is supposed to be creating new content. It is not supposed to just plagiarize. It is going to use the concept or the words that another person might have used, but it is going to generate new words. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't necessarily double check to make sure that you're not plagiarizing. Again, it doesn't list the sources, so you don't know if you're taking somebody else's content. So you could use, there's content analyzers out there that are available to help you do that. I know we've used it on our website to make sure we're not plagiarizing content. I also know my son, for example, they use it in the schools to make sure that the kids aren't just ripping things off that they found on the internet. So that is definitely something that can be done. And yes, I can go back to the slide on how to use it in your business, because I have a couple more little slides that I'd like to share with you. So let me go back here and do the presentation from, let me go here. I'll have to back up, but oops, let me switch these. Swap. Can you see it? So let me go back. Let's see. So the ideas of how you could use it in your business. So this is just ChatGPT. There are some out there that will do, from an AI standpoint, images, music. It's amazing how this whole AI area has completely exploded. So I'm going to leave this here for just a second, but then what I want to do is I'm going to jump to here. These are just some of the other generative AI technologies and sites that are out there. There's a boatload more. I just didn't put them all on the slide. These are the ones that are kind of considered generative, where they're creating new content. And they were organized a bit by categories. So, chatting and searching, artwork generators. These are just a few. Dolly happens to be by the same company as ChatGPT, OpenAI. You notice I have ChatGPT here twice because they sort of consider themselves a searching and a writing. But there's a boatload of these out there. And this, as I said, it's just the beginning. One of the things that you may have noticed is that Microsoft is integrating ChatGPT into their platform. So for example, in Bing, if you use Edge and Bing is your search engine, it will, instead of doing the indexing, it will give you a result that is more of the AI, where instead of giving you the list of websites, it will give you the answer, not just the web links like it used to do. They're also integrating it into PowerPoint, Word, all of these various things to help you, be a better writer. Autopilot is another one that it summarizes content. So I've noted, I don't know if any of you've noticed this, but I've been on a few meetings recently, and the autopilot, what it does is that it attends the meeting and then it summarizes the meeting at the end and sends it all to you in a written form. One of the questions that I see here is how good is Bard and the Apple versus Google? I don't actually have a lot of experience with all of these because they're so new. So I'm not really comfortable kind of commenting on the quality of these at this point. Again, they're all new. And what I would say is, it wouldn't be a bad idea to sort of test yourself, test each one and see what kind of response you get. And depending on what you're looking for, you may find that one of them is better than the other. So for example, in the writing category here, you see Copy AI. I have a colleague who thinks that Copy AI is better than ChatGPT. And so they got a paid account over on that platform instead. So all of these are somewhat personal preference and also what you're trying to do with them. So, but I would encourage you to give them all a little test spin to see, are there some that, really work well for you? Let's see. I see some conversations going on about the content analyzers, so I'll let that be. Are there any other questions? All right. Okay, so with that, I will wrap it up. If you have any questions, we'd love to talk to you about this, how you're using it, concerns. Frankly, we do have some clients that have come to us and said, I don't want this stuff being used in my business, and they want us to block these websites. In my opinion, you need to set up a corporate policy, a written policy that you have employees acknowledge, because asking us to block these AI websites is a little bit of a losing battle. New ones are springing up every day. It's like whack-a-mole. Okay, so we can certainly block the major ones, but I am not sure that's in your best interest. I think what you ought to do is set up some guide rails and some policies around how you want your folks to use this technology in your business, and tackle it head on. So with that, I will say that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you.